she?
What's going on, people? Episode 43, Pickers Market Podcast. Tyler, Jeremy, Keith, Lisa. That was not in proper order. I don't even know who I was looking at when I said those things. I just went with it. I figured I'd remember people's names eventually. You know, I've been gone a little while. Yeah, it's one of those things. How's it going?
Get the rust off.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
good.
I got to knock the rust off a little. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
You and I were.
Yeah, we were living the Scottsdale lifestyle for a little while.
Yeah.
We were crossing paths.
Yeah.
But episode 43. So I listened to episode 42, and you know, I have a pen in hand.
Our own.
I was called old in like the first 12 seconds
Well,
of
it's
that
fine
video.
because our own co-host hasn't even listened to it yet, so he has no idea what we said.
No, I was so furious after last time listening to it, and I wasn't here, just getting mocked. I'm like, I don't know if I need this.
I don't know if I need this in my life. All right, episode 43. I'm going back to sports because 43 deserved one.
I went back to sports last week.
Did you? Oh, what was it? I couldn't remember.
Jackie Robinson.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Oh, that was
That's a good one.
Did you do any research after the fact, or did you just let it go? It's okay.
Embarrassing to admit, not yet.
All right, that's fine.
You've been busy.
Jeez.
You got truck stuff going on.
But so 43. 43 is iconic, right? Iconic for a couple reasons. One, it's a real racer, not an F1 racer.
Real racer.
A real
Hey, they
racer.
were doing it. Don't get me started on this. They're doing a interview with a NASCAR racer. I can't remember his name, and then both the Ferrari drivers.
Okay.
And they were talking about how fast they go around COTA, which is the racetrack down in Texas
Okay.
that they both NASCAR and F1 race on.
Got it.
F1 does it in 1:34.
Okay.
NASCAR is like 2:10.
Okay.
What?
Come on now. Talk about real racing.
There's only like 4 F1 cars run racing at a time, right? I mean,
There's 20.
oh boy.
I don't know. Either way, none of them have the stash I'm talking about right now, which 43
Legend.
would be the Richard Petty car, right?
The
I mean,
legend.
do you know Richard Petty at all? No. Okay.
I've
Oh,
never
really?
been in NASCAR. I've never understood it.
So I'm not either, to be completely
Just go
honest with you.
round
I just wanted to make
and
fun of you about F1. But Richard Petty, I know. I mean, the blue and red 40. It's blue and red, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm nearly certain, right?
Colorblind
43
guys,
right
colorblind,
on
yeah.
right on the door.
STP. Right?
Yeah. And then just his look, the cowboy hat and the mustache. It's like, you know, it's iconic. I thought he would know that one
No.
at least.
Do you know
Do you know
Burt-
one NASCAR?
You know Burt Reynolds at least?
Burt Reynolds. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
At least
Very similar
look.
from very similar from a look
There.
perspective. There it is. Yeah.
That guy looks badass.
That is
Yeah, he
is
is. You
top.
know it.
Yeah, that is top 10 stash all time, I think, right there. You know, the wife doesn't. Let's talk about stashes here for a second. We got to do the mustache talk. I have never dabbled in a mustache. The wife won't let me. Well, one, you know, by the time we got to, like, I could never really grow one. Like, I always had to try the goatee thing that never even connected
Oh.
until now. I could, but now I'm totally out on mustaches completely because
When was the last time you even grew a beard?
define like how like your style.
Yeah, just like
Probably
anything.
COVID. I think COVID,
Okay.
I got to that. And then I was just itching my face constantly. And I'm like, no, that's done too. So I've generally been a pretty clean shaven person for the most part. Lisa, I want to go to you first.
I never grew a mustache.
Yeah,
What
no.
is your question? I'm sorry too.
Oh, Lisa.
I was pretty
Disappoint you.
safe in that assumption. But I
Yeah.
have met your husband in the past.
Yeah.
And your husband is a mustache connoisseur. I have to say
Oh, for
connoisseur.
sure.
We've
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
this.
for sure.
It was
With the
that
twists and
With
was
stuff.
the
that an
twist, the
approved?
handlebars.
Yeah, exactly. Was that an approved arrangement, or was that a part of the initial deal as the package was presented to you?
You fell for that.
So let me put it that way. It was not part of the original configuration. It
gotcha.
was rather an add-on.
Okay,
He didn't ask for approval
got it.
anyways, but he always like had some type of beard situation, but never a mustache.
Okay.
And the thing with him is, he's a connoisseur when it comes to his face coverings,
Yeah.
whatever. But he has blonde hair, so he's blonde, so it does not really stick out as much. So he always asks me when he tries different styles how it looks, and I was like, "What has changed?" That is not a problem, unfortunately.
What are we looking at here?
Well, yeah.
Give me a hint.
Ouch. That probably doesn't go well.
Mhm.
How about you two? Lip caterpillars? Either you ever give that a whirl?
No.
No mustache.
Never. Never. Not. I would have thought.
Goatee.
Okay, I did the
Goatee.
goatees.
Yeah,
I've done the goatee.
that's fine. Goatee for several years, beard for several years.
Okay, interesting.
No,
I mean-
the mustache is just it's a bold move.
I couldn't really grow it until like 2 years ago, so hard to have a mustache.
Some would
when-
say you couldn't still grow it now.
Yeah, that
I don't know who those people are.
you could say that still. We're still working on it. It's certainly not
It's getting there.
certainly not Keith's level.
Well, yeah, Keith shaves in the morning by 5 o'clock.
We're ready to go.
Yeah,
Burt Reynolds again.
That's all the stuff that used to be in my head now is
Just fell
fell
down.
to my face.
Keith, when you joined us, you were a clean shaven
Yeah.
man.
I was telling these guys at lunchtime. I think this summer, some point in time again. I'm gonna
Oh, you
shave.
are going to go for it,
Going
huh?
for it again. Yeah.
Wow.
People
okay.
won't recognize me. They'll
You'll be
like, "Geez."
aerodynamic
Yeah.
coming in here.
Coming in naked.
Yeah,
Coming
it's
in
gonna be
naked.
weird.
It'll be hot.
Anybody else cold? Oh, nice. Love it. That's the way to start a financial podcast
Yeah.
right there. Is the mustache analysis. I do want to switch to the hot button here. We've been going pretty deep lately, right? I think it's agreement. We've we've gone into conversations and then we look at the time. It's like, well, that's all we have today.
Mhm.
So I want to flip that around a little bit. I want to do a little less nerding out, a little bit more. Let's call it the pickers market dating game, speed
Yeah.
dating game, if
Quick
you
hitters,
will,
right?
Quick
Yep.
hitters. Let's just bang it out and see what the thoughts are. I thought about, and honestly, I just got lazy and didn't do it, but I thought about doing a timer and having
Oh.
the 5, 4,
Oh,
3,
it's
2,
a
1, and move on to the next thing. I got lazy and couldn't find it.
Yeah,
Couldn't
that-
find a quick app on my iPhone,
That and
unfortunately.
the guy running the show today would have had a little more problem, I think, than the rest of us on the quick timer.
Yeah, I would have had to give myself an extra 10 seconds handicap there. No question about it. I would have got like 3 words in and like, oh, time's up already. All right, so let's do that. So I want to let's start with the scary scale. And so we're just going to go around. We're just going to make it easy so that everybody knows when their turn is up. So Tyler, you're going to start here.
Okay.
Scary scale will be 1 to 10. 1, you're not scared at all. 10, you're absolutely terrified. That's the rank. I want you to start. First one is stock market valuations, where we currently are right now. Are you not scared at all, or are you terrified? Or where do you find?
I'd go with a 7.
7. And the reason is
It's
tick.
it's very high. And you
hard-hitting analysis in the speed dating round here.
well, okay.
You want a dial it back? Here's a dial
Right.
it back.
You look at
Seven's
periods.
high.
You
High.
look at periods when valuation is this high and forward returns.
Yep.
Granted, it's very slim, so you're looking at very small amount of data points. But you look at forward returns when multiples get this high, and it doesn't look very great.
There it is. Good. Lisa,
I
He
would
was a
give it a
7.
6.
6. Little less.
Same analysis.
Okay, why
basically.
less than him though then?
Good question.
She's
Okay.
more of an optimist than I am.
Got it.
I'm
Just
I'm more
a general sunny disposition?
I'm more the optimist, but I would agree with most part what Tyler said
Got
on the whys.
Cool.
Yeah.
Gangl.
6 as well. So same
6.
as rationale as Tyler. Historically, we're at high levels, but I still think the market's got a lot of tailwinds behind it, so it's less of a concern. So 6 is a solid number.
Love it. 8.
Ooh.
Yeah. We've done the analysis. It
Mhm.
historically doesn't end well. Could we get out of it? Sure. But it usually doesn't
Mhm.
end in
Yep.
sunshine and roses. So nice. Good round. First run there.
Mhm.
All right. Round 2, inflation and the consumer. You can take it either way you want. Again, still under the 1 to 10. Tyler, go.
I've talked about this before. I'd give that I'd go 8.
8.
I think inflation's coming back, especially if any sort of tariffs get put in place. We're going to see it across the board. Consumers, I think, lower income cohorts are certainly feeling it. Higher income cohorts aren't feeling it as much, but I think there's a natural tipping point where you're going to start to see layoffs and whatnot. And maybe the government stuff, it maybe starts that.
Yep.
So
Cool. Got it. Lisa.
I give it a 7.
7. Just one. She's playing the prices right
are we going
game.
7, 7, 9?
Right. There's a pattern here.
So I give it a 7. I would also say, I mean, we inflation is sticky, slightly upward ticking, but sticky up from here. And we have some potential policies, whatever you kind of, however likely they are to come or not. We do not know a whole lot about that. We talked about that in prior episodes, but that could act inflationary. So that's more a risk, I would say.
Okay.
And consumers remain resilient to Tyler's point. But also when we look at the delinquency rates and consumer debt, which hit an all-time record high. So at some point, where does the money come from?
Where does the money come from?
When savings are already depleted or, on the lower end, I would say. Yeah.
Gangl?
I'm gonna change the rules here a little bit. I'm gonna break them up.
What are you gonna say? X?
No. Listen, I'm gonna break those up. I think they're two different things. I'm saying inflation's an 8.
It's fine.
Consumers a 3.
Okay.
I like the cash balance of the consumer. Unemployment is still relatively low. Yeah, we're starting to see some layoffs, but I think the consumer is still in a very healthy position. But inflation is a worry, so that's why I like to break it in 2. So if you want to average them out, maybe 8 plus 3, 5.5. How is that?
It's something.
There you go. I mean,
did you see the wheels just grinding on my side over here? I don't know why. I don't know what math all of a sudden became difficult for me.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm coagulating it back together. You know,
it's your show.
Go ahead. I'm back around a 7. I think a second round of inflation, if we're right, I think we're too early to make that call that inflation is going the wrong way. There are certainly some signs out there that we could be going that way. If that happens, I don't think the consumer can handle it again. So my number would go up from there, but I'm not convinced that we're there yet. So let me see a couple more data points before we get too out of hand with that. Look at that. Good. I am finishing quickly today. I am on it.
We're rolling.
All right. Scary scale 1 to 10 again. Now we're going to talk about the housing market. And Tyler, I put affordability and supply, being that the home builders got crushed recently. You can take this wherever you go, from 1 to 10 on the housing market.
I feel like it's made me seem like such a pessimist right now.
Okay.
I'd go 10.
Bully, you are terrified of the housing market.
I mean, here
hasn't been around 2008, 2009. I guess a great.
Okay, I guess
that was pretty.
That's
extreme.
probably
I'll dial it back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then we'll say 8 if we're using 08 as the
benchmark.
I
mean, 1 to 10, Tyler. I mean, you got to have an extreme.
Okay, but the problem is you're starting to. The housing market is pricing people out of the market now, especially with where rates are at.
Yep.
Like, I know people who have a house right now. They're sitting with a 275 mortgage, and they won't. If they ever decide to move and upsize because they want to start a family or whatever, they couldn't afford their current house.
Sure, that makes sense,
right?
Yep.
Like with how quickly the prices of houses have risen, and how quickly and where the sustained mortgage rates are at, people just can't afford it.
Yeah.
Like it's becoming a big challenge. And if you break down, you could break down what the percentage of income went towards a mortgage back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, the 10s.
Yep.
And now you're looking at about 45%, whereas it used to be in the high 20s, low 30s.
Yep.
Right. So it's a very different game right now for someone trying to get into a house who doesn't have one, or someone who's trying to upscale the house that they currently have.
Got it. Nice.
So I'm very worried about it because I don't know how you fix it.
Got it. Lisa.
One of the priced out people
yes.
here.
Oh boy, she's going 11.
Yeah, exactly.
11, yeah. No,
new game. Yeah.
I'm actually a little bit more optimistic. I would say 6.
Okay.
Around between 6 and 7, I would say.
Okay.
To all of Tyler's
6.38429.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
Yeah. Let's make it. Yeah. There's just no supply out there.
Okay.
Because people kind of stick with their houses, or have to stick with there because they couldn't afford. Or what Tyler said, we have like around 4 million houses short.
Yep.
New houses.
Mm-hmm.
So there is certainly a risk, and affordability is low. Yeah, no supply. And with our conviction that the mortgage rates will not change all that drastically this year, there's no quick fix to it.
Yep.
Or no quick change to it. What I see.
Gotcha. Gangl?
Yeah, I'm going with the 7 now that I talked Tyler off the ledge of a 10. So I do think there's an issue with affordability is the biggest issue, right? With rates at 7%. You've seen the new starts this morning were bad for the housing starts. It's just housing prices should be moderating more than they are with where the interest rates are, and they're not because of the actual supply. Until it gets fixed, I think it just takes time. And I think the other thing is it takes time for people to get used to a 7% mortgage.
Yes.
You know, all those old people like, oh, I had 18% and, I built my house in 2000. It was 7.5.
Yeah, the
And that
18%ers are
those are long
it's
gone,
getting,
but
it's getting
but at
away
least-
from that. Yeah.
But I mean, you're hearing people, the 10s, the 7s, the 6s. So it's like, okay, yeah, it's certainly not 2, 3. but
I came in at a
it's-
6. My
yeah,
first one
so
was
it's
had 6 handle
manageable.
on
The
it.
problem is the prices have
Yeah,
gone
the
up so much, the
affordability.
affordability.
That's the
and
biggest difference.
there's certain pockets in the country where regions that are probably more affordable.
Yeah.
So I think it's either time kind of goes sideways where your house price doesn't move. I think that's what fixes
Yeah.
it. But I think we're at a 7. It's certainly not great, and it's not a disaster though either.
I'm going to cheat like you did. I'm going to split this up into 2 things. Affordability is an absolute 9.
Mhm.
Price to income is ridiculously out of whack.
Yeah.
Price of the house versus the
Mhm.
average income.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. That something has to change there, or this problem doesn't get any better.
Mhm.
Its effect on the economy, I'm lower than that because I remember 08. It's not going to collapse the economy, right? This acts as handcuffs. It doesn't act as
Yeah.
economic calamity. It acts as Lisa can't get into a house, right? So Lisa has to continue to
Yeah.
rent and do those kinds of things that she does until she can afford or adjust. That's where the lack of mobility is a problem. And
I mean,
it
she just
could-
has to stop buying trucks. And
yeah,
planes.
exactly.
Trucks and
Yeah.
planes
Well,
is
yeah.
an issue, yeah.
nothing
Johnny
has
Trucks
to
a lot over
clarify
there.
that.
Yeah.
I just
Trucks
have an
and planes.
expensive
Mustache and
husband.
trucks.
Anyways, I just had-
that's Lisa's.
Yeah.
That's the sign above her house now. Is mustache and trucks.
she complains about affordability, but
Yeah.
she's out buying other things.
Who needs a house?
Who needs a house? We live in the truck.
Well, Keith, you cannot fly a house, but you can sleep in an airplane. So.
Wow,
That was the
that's
thing.
valid.
There it is.
Does that would put you over the top on that purchase? That rationale, love it.
Oh.
All right,
Anyways, yeah. I mean, really getting back to the end of that is, I think the lack of mobility could create kind of recessionary conditions, but I'm talking about recessionary type conditions. I'm not talking about, are we going to have an economy tomorrow? So if we're using 10 as an 08, I can't get there. Right?
Yeah.
I can't even get anywhere near
Yeah.
that. All right. Last one, which is the most fun one.
No,
On a scary scale of 1 to 10. And I'm going to preface this in a way because I'm going to say politics, but I'm not going to say politics go. I'm going to say politics in the effect of, is the current climate for you the same, higher, or lower in terms of nervousness? So you don't have to do 1 to 10. You say, I am now more nervous than I used to be based upon politics. I'm the same, or I'm less worried. Where do you sit on that?
How do I take this?
Whichever way you want. Do you want me to go first so you
so-
don't feel so nervous?
So I think from a general politics, I'm nervous because it doesn't, not necessarily the specific president, but both parties as a whole, it seems like we can't ever come to some type of agreement anymore.
Yep.
It's always a battle, and neither side wants to support the other side,
Got it.
whether it makes sense or not.
Yep.
Right. Like if it's a good idea, but it comes from the Republican side, Democrats won't do it.
Right.
And vice versa.
vice
If
versa.
Democrats have
Mhm.
a great idea, Republicans refuse to support it.
Mhm.
Right. Like there's just a hard line that you cannot cross right now. So that aspect makes me very worried.
Yep.
Because we have a lot of pending issues, specifically debt, that at some point needs to be solved. And budgeting and spend, like all of that needs to come to some type of conclusion.
Mhm.
And we're nowhere near doing that.
Right.
Right. So that makes me worried. And I'll leave it there.
Got it. Perfect. Lisa?
I would give it an 8.
Okay.
Between
So
an
you
8
are
and
putting
a
a number.
9.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, a 9. All right. All right.
I would
so
say
you're
8.5.
you
yeah,
are,
me too.
I would say that your equilibrium is, you're higher than
Yes,
that right now,
I
right?
would say.
Okay.
And to Tyler's point, there's so much division between the camps that it seems there's no normal discussion
Yep.
possible, not only between the parties, but also between normal people who voted maybe differently.
Sure.
So that's crazy, I would say.
Yeah.
That, sometimes people cannot talk to each other
Mhm.
anymore. And also, of course, I look closely on the European side of politics
Absolutely.
as well. And what's going on over there is also concerning, I would say,
Yep.
with all the elections. And not that it matters on a world stage, but Austria had an election in November. We do not have a governing parliament yet
Okay.
because they cannot agree on who they want to govern with.
Interesting.
So
And nobody wants to give up anything, I'm assuming, right?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so there's the third iteration of discussions and of debates going on, and we are shortly before re-election. Germany is right in front of an election. France is kind of, so there are so many issues there. All of that together makes me a lot more nervous, I would say.
Got it.
compared to
Can I
3
throw
years ago.
something out here just
Absolutely.
really quick on as we're talking about this? So my mom knew an old school politician.
Okay.
And she told me about this probably like 5 or 10 years ago, but he said that the issue today is that everything is on social media or on the news.
Yeah.
Mm.
When he was back in politics back in the day, it was closed doors for the most part, or maybe got printed in the newspaper.
Sure.
Right. It wasn't so publicized on who had a stance on this or that.
Mhm.
So they were able to actually negotiate and give up some things without being slaughtered.
Right.
Right. But today, everything, if this senator or rep decides to give way on this specific thing in this specific bill, their whole
Yeah.
constituents are
You sold us out.
Yes.
Yeah. The immediate. You sold us out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And everybody, once your main goal once you get into Congress is to stay in Congress.
Yeah. To
Right.
get reelected. Yep.
Mm.
So you can't give way to anything because your constituents are going to know what you did,
Gotcha.
That's
So-
a good point with
Nice.
social media.
which I think is a big issue.
I think you're right.
Mhm.
I'm gonna take a little bit different angle
Nice.
here on it. So,
Let's hear that contrarian view.
well, I do think you guys are right. The parties are divided, just exactly like you guys said. So that's an 8. But I would say that the politics relative to the market, kind of what the show is about, is
Yeah.
I would dial it to less than a 3 or 4.
Okay.
Just because I think some of the things that are going on, the Doge, for example, right?
Yep.
For them going into government, looking at abuse, waste, fraud.
Sure.
I think both sides can agree on it. They
Mhm.
may not want to the way he's approaching it, but I think if that can be a center stage for the market, what we care about, I think that's part of what's helping the little bit of a tailwind to maybe to
Interesting.
the market, is that the fact that if you can start getting some of those costs when the deficit and all these things, all of a sudden, oh, that looks attainable now, where I think prior to that it hasn't. So that's my spin on it. So I'm taking a different, the two parties, you guys are 100% right. They disagree. That's an 8, 9 on politics. If you look at it that way, I'm looking at towards the market and kind of, I see some light maybe at the long tunnel.
Okay.
There's some glimmer of a hope that, maybe things are be a little bit changed, right? We're seeing some
Gotcha.
dynamics that we haven't seen before.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay. I'm going to counter your counter. 'Cause,
Yeah,
The volatility of that is that we have, I think social media does play absolutely into this, but I'm going to pivot it a different way, is that communication front going right to the front of it and spinning it in a way that creates a lack of what I would call accountability to a certain extent of what actually it is. I mean, the Doge thing that just came out was one of the things they put out immediately was 8 billion in savings, and it turned out it was 8 million. We got to be a little more careful about that kind of stuff because we're creating volatility when I don't think that there's necessarily reason to. If they want to go in and try to be more efficient, absolutely, let it ride, go for it. I think there is avenues that everyone can agree on that government waste is probably prevalent. We just have to be careful in that messaging and what they're doing, and setting a flamethrower to everything scares me to a certain extent. So that's where we have to be a little careful about.
Yeah.
But that's just Jeremy's opinion. All right. We're going to pivot off of that since I know I just made all of you uncomfortable. That was fun. Let's just talk about stocks and sectors. Let's give me that. Give me something. I don't care. Just give me an elevator pitch on a stock or a sector that interests you. Go.
Energy. And
Energy.
the reason being is if tariffs go into place, there's going to be very different dynamics at play for each industry and company inside of energy.
Okay.
Even though I don't necessarily like energy as a whole
Mhm.
right now, and some people might like it, but I think there's going to be a very big bifurcation in what companies can do well going forward and what companies can do very poorly going forward. So energy is very interesting to me right now. I don't think it's the greatest sector to be in.
Yeah. So you wouldn't buy the ETF, but you'd buy some of the companies within it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Who is the like what areas would you say are most interesting in that regard?
So I would stay away from the refiners.
Got it.
I would go heavier into services.
Okay.
One that I'm looking at for one of our portfolios, Patterson UTI. So they're a drilling specific company. So if we do this whole drill baby drill thing with Trump, we're going to need to drill some wells.
Got it.
Right. The other one that I would say could do well would be Williams, which is like a pipeline company,
which has already done pretty well. Right?
It's already done. Yeah. It's already done very well. But I think pipelines are going to continue to do well regardless, especially again, going back to the drill baby drill, stay within America, tariffs on Canadian and Mexican oil. Refiners, I would stay far away from.
Gotcha.
Because 70% of our refining comes from
Canada.
70% of our crude oil comes from crude outside.
The stuff they're refining comes from outside of our border.
So I just find it fascinating that you can have an industry where one thing like that can bifurcate the entire thing pretty heavily.
I like it. Lisa, what do you got?
I brought a single stock.
Okay.
And it's not the flashiest or the most interesting, but hear me out, Walmart.
Okay.
It's the biggest.
Just so you know, they report here. Like
I know
tomorrow.
they are. And are they cheap?
Getting ahead of it. Look at that.
And are they cheap at the moment? No, not at all, which puts even more pressure on their reporting this week. But they're the largest retailer in the world. They keep on innovating and adapting to different cycles, to different innovations. And given their size, I think that's fantastic and incredible what they're doing with managing their supply chain, going into e-commerce away from just being a brick and mortar company. With their membership and same-day delivery, they were able to compete to a certain extent with Amazon, which is completely astounding to me. That another company is able to do that given the size and their history. And it's just, it's a staple that gives you also exposure to innovation. And just their adaptation ability kind of fascinates me.
I like it.
And again, it's not cheap at the moment, but just the story itself and how it operates and how long it is around, but still is able to reinvent itself. And as a fun fact, at university, we often use Walmart and their fundamentals as a case study in different, and we were always like, oh, does it have to be Walmart? Can we do something more interesting? But I get it now why we,
right? I was just thinking like 5 years ago, if you had called Walmart an innovative company.
And it was at that time. And it's like, nobody understood. Well, we were always or often used that one. But now it's like, I get it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Gangl, what do you got for me?
Wow, Lisa, you're kind of almost, stepping on my thunder here. Amazon was my pick.
Oh,
Single
okay.
stock.
Look at you two.
I like the consumer, just like you pointed out. Half their business is the consumer. Obviously, everybody here. Jeremy's probably got 18 Amazon boxes on
every day
on his porch.
I can make a cool fort.
Yeah. So obviously, they're largest online retailer, leverage to consumer. My opinion, the consumer, I think they're still in a healthy spot. U.S. consumer, when they have money, they spend. Amazon's the first button they hit. That, and they got the technology side, with their AWS, which is large data center stuff, and with AI, I think there's gonna be huge improvements there. And the stock multiple, I just looked, it's not cheap. It's actually cheaper than Walmart, which is crazy for way better growth. I like Walmart as well. Don't get me wrong. I like Walmart. But they're trading at a 35 times PE multiple, and their growth rate's probably 2x Walmart. And it's relative to historical, it's on the low end relative to the S&P 500, it's at 22 times. So it's not that expensive. And I just looked at like 1 year, 3 year, 5 year performance relative to the Mag 7 names. And it really hasn't, it's been underperforming for those time periods. The 1 year is kind of in the middle of the pack. You would think it's been better, but no, there's been Nvidia and some of these other big guys, and it's been slightly better than the S&P in a 1 year as well. So it's not been a massive outperformer. And I think, if I look out 1, 2, 3 years, I think it's going to be in the top of that pack.
Nice. There you go. Little shopping excursion for these two.
We like retail, right?
Yes.
All right. I'm lame because I'm not going to give an idea, but one that just just as crazy to me as the collapse of Nike. I just don't think it's
Also shopping
follow-
at some extent.
yeah, I just don't think it's followed as well how bad it has been. I think I did it at the beginning of 2023 you go back 20 years, it was a massive outperformer. Basically, it's given back like 18 years of outperformance in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
It is down, I think, in the 30 to 40% range compared to a market that's nearly doubled during that period of time. It's unbelievable how it has absolutely collapsed. And you wouldn't think that, Nike's position has fallen that much until I did my own little personal due diligence over the last time. You just look at the airport. And I was thinking, you mentioned old guys like us. Old guys like us over here would never own we always own Nike, right? It's just kind of a default. Yeah, we're just going to buy a pair of Nikes, figure it out. Walking through the airport, man, nobody
No one.
has them on anymore.
I just had to double check my shoes, but it's Adidas. So.
There it is. Yeah. Check out an airport sometime. That used to be just littered with the swoosh. Now it is very rare.
Too much competition.
You're wearing the moon boot Hokas or
Yeah, I'm
whatever,
wearing-
however
yeah.
you call
Yeah.
those
I'm
things.
not sure how I feel about those, by the way. Yeah, they're super comfortable. I'm not a big looker, but
I gotta say, I look at the ones you wear and I'm like, I can't buy those.
no,
They're
girl-
very
they're just,
Yeah,
they look jump. Yeah.
yeah.
But I do own a pair of their hiking boots
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
super comfortable. So,
Mhm.
and I don't mind looking like moon boots in there. So I own a pair of moon boots too.
Yeah.
I think I only own one pair of Nike shoes,
Okay.
and I got them for free.
Wow.
Oh, look at that.
That's not helping the stock, Tyler.
Yeah, and I mean, whether I would buy or sell. So I bought it, I've sold it, because I started to see this, and it was just like it used to be the de facto default. Just I'd buy one and
Yeah.
think about anything else as secondary.
Mm.
I don't think that's the case anymore, and I don't know what changes that. So while I wouldn't probably short it at these levels, I'm not a buyer. I'm
No.
not a buyer by any
Jeremy's
stretch.
boots on the ground research.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
hardcore due diligence right there. That's how we add value. Just watching people in the airport about to get arrested. I was just looking at their shoes. All right, last one. We'll do it quick. What is your most interesting market influence that isn't being talked about right now? Just kind of give me something either black swanish or just kind of what are people paying, not paying enough attention to that you're like, maybe we should be listening a little bit more about it. What do you got, Tyler?
Skip me for a second.
Okay, Lisa?
Well,
Or
Lisa.
I can go first. I'll go first,
Go
and
ahead.
that'll leave you all time. 60-40 portfolio is 60% stocks, 40% bonds. There was talk about in 2022 that it died because 40%. I don't think it died, but I do think the numbers are changing pretty aggressively. And I think the introduction of options-based strategies that allow you to get some level of protection that doesn't require interest rate risk is changing the dynamic of how you protect your portfolio going forward. So I think the traditional 60-40 is probably not. I think in 20 years, we won't be talking about 60-40 as 60-40. I think we'll be talking about it in very different ways. And especially with the volatility of the bond market, if that stays, people are just going to get tired of it. And I think you're already seeing evidence of that. And the fact that ETFs are innovating more and more and every day in the options-based space, I think it just allows you different ways to protect that's going to change it going forward. So that's Jeremy's quick one. Can I go back to you or do I
Not
need to
yet.
go? Okay.
I'll go a rapid rise in interest rates.
Okay.
Everybody's saying 5% on the 10 years, kind of a cap.
Yep.
If I think the black swan would be event, also, and that just spikes up to 6-7%. The government's got a refi. I think that's a huge problem and that's one thing that most people don't talk about.
It's a good one. Lisa?
Let's make this quick. I have another page of notes here.
Oh, no.
we-
Well,
we
I'm
don't
going to hit the
know.
countdown clock pretty quick
Okay.
here.
I have direct lending, so private credit.
Okay.
Which it grew massively over the last few years, and we do not have a whole lot of historic data on it
Got
and
it.
how it performed in different market situations. So I would say because of that could give us some type of risk
Okay.
when we look at valuations that are not like in the public markets that we can look at valuations every day, all day. We have a little bit of lack of transparency. We have not as much oversight and
Interesting.
regulations.
Yep.
So I would say, and I'm not negative on it, don't
Sure.
get me wrong, but I can see that lack of experience that is not yet stress tested
Got it.
really gives a little bit of risk that we maybe do not clearly see now how that could unfold, and especially how that could influence like the broader financial markets and financial stability.
Good.
So I think
That's
there's some
interesting.
risk.
All right.
All right. Tyler's ready now.
So mine is AI. So everybody talks about how great AI is going to make things.
Mhm.
So we had a guest in the office the other week. I won't name who it is. And I generally agree with his thoughts, but I asked him the question. I said, and he's kind of known for AI, is kind of what he's known for. And I asked him, how do we utilize AI outside of business to business or these chatbots?
Yep.
And I didn't really get an answer.
Okay.
He just said everywhere.
Got it.
And I'm like, okay,
So where?
so where do we use AI outside of Apple Intelligence, which I mean, we've had Siri for how many years,
Right.
and how often do people use freaking Siri?
Yeah.
Right. So mine is the risk of downside on AI being not as significant as an industry as people are expecting it to be.
Gotcha.
Like it's not going to give a return on investment that these guys are. It's not going to pay off the billions and billions of. What are we spending this year in CapEx?
320.
330.
$20 billion this year alone in CapEx, and most of that's probably going towards AI. I don't see how we're going to utilize AI, and I don't think the market is going to be as big. And that's one thing that I think people should consider.
Interesting.
Mhm.
There you go. When he first said AI, I was like, really?
Wow.
But he
No, it
pivoted
came
around.
around.
He came around.
I get it.
It was, yeah, there we
yeah.
go. All right, good. I want to get out of the quick hitters. Thank you for that. I like doing that a little differently here. But I want to talk about the spaghetti wall, and I know we're running on time. So, but I want to talk topography. And the reason why I do that, and that sounds super nerdy, I totally get it. But we were in Scottsdale, right? And Scottsdale versus Minnesota, just slightly different, right? When I was
Especially last week.
yeah, exactly. Oh, brutal. But when I looked out, I was like, do I like desert? And I think I came to the conclusion I don't like desert. Do you all like desert? Or let me pivot it this way. Do you like desert? Secondarily, what's your favorite, like out the window looking at, I want to see this? Tyler?
I like the desert for the climate.
Yep.
I don't like the cacti hills and like I love the hot during the day and cold during the night.
Okay.
Love that.
So if it's okay. So hot during the day, cold at night, any climate you can do, what do you want to see out your window?
I would have to go with some type of ocean view. So like
Okay.
Florida, like
Got it.
palm tree, or actually I'll switch that up. Hawaii.
Why? Good one.
Maui is perfect.
Nice. Lisa, same question.
I prefer mild climate,
Okay.
but generally I could deal better with cold rather than humidity and hot, I would say.
Got it.
But I want to see 4 seasons. I'm really, I indulge in every season. I
Okay.
think every season has something good to it. Right now in Minnesota, I'm struggling to appreciate the beautiful state of
horrible.
Minnesota.
It's
But
horrible here right now.
anyways, I try to make the best out of it. Let me put it that way. And I think the best surrounding for me is lakes, some
Okay.
rolling hills,
Okay.
and some forests.
All right.
So that
Well,
is
she
the
got it all
best.
going on.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
What do you got, Gangl?
Hands down, it's water. I live on a
Okay.
lake, and
So his
as a-
house.
Right. Exactly.
No, I mean
Elk
that's
River.
Minnesota, but
Yeah.
like I said, desert doesn't do a whole lot for me. So like as I get closer to retirement, it'll certainly somewhere warm with
Yeah.
water views. I'm hoping,
Gotcha.
depending on budget. But anyway, so that's I just enjoy whether it's oceans, lakes, just the tranquility of water and seeing stuff going on up there.
I like it. If I were to do one thing, it would be, and if I could take climate out of the situation, snow-capped mountain with a water underneath it, it's perfect.
We all
That is absolutely
crave
perfect.
water at
Yeah.
some point in
It's-
our year.
I don't know.
Something about water.
Exactly. I
Like
think that's
looking- yeah.
fairly
Yeah,
universal.
yeah,
It
yeah.
is tough to.
Just even sound of waves.
I'd be
and stuff like
interested
that,
if
right?
if there is a listener here who is like, you guys are lunatics that I'd rather be in the desert. I'd want to hear that because I that would be a totally contrarian argument.
Well.
All right. Thank you for indulging my nerdiness. Thank you all for listening. Tune in next time. We'll see you.